What's up, everyone? This is Dariusz Kalbarczyk, co-founder of MG Poland, JS Poland, AngularMaster.dev, and WorkshopFest.dev. Welcome back to the Angular Master podcast. Today, we've got a special guest straight from Warsaw, Poland. Frontend developer at Prowly, web enthusiast, speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Tobiasz Ciesielski. Hi Tobiasz, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Darek. Nice to meet you. I'm very glad I'm here. Thank you for invitation for this podcast. Today is very beautiful weather in Warsaw, and I feel very pleasant to record the podcast, and I hope we will bring a lot of value to the table.
For those who don't know you yet, please tell us about yourself and what you do.
I'm front-end developer. I work in Prowly, PR software, which is SEMrush company. We have around 90 people on board. I could say now I'm conference speaker. Last year, 2023, it was my debut on NG Poland. I was talking about best practices in Angular, and I want to go further. And I started to share my knowledge on social media about programming, my experience, my knowledge, and I'm here with you. We are recording this podcast. It's such a pleasure to me.
How did your journey with programming begin?
When I was in high school, I was sure I will not become a software developer because I was like in class with math, physics, and computer science. And I was learning Scratch and C++, very basic stuff. And I couldn't understand why I'm learning this. That time I was like solving problems like what is prime number? And I was like seeing the number. I can said, yeah, it's prime number. Why I should write some code to do it? I couldn't understand it. So with this experience, with this class after high school, I was thinking, okay, what's next? I don't want to go to computer science because I don't want to be programmer. I didn't want to also work with machines, all the stuff, and chemistry, and or some architecture. It was not my area. I was like thinking, okay, there was automatics and robotics control. Maybe this is like something for me. It's quite interesting. There is not that much programming, there is not that much machines, maybe some robots, some AI. Okay, let's try it. And in the first year of studies, I had a huge course, computer science course. It was very tough to pass the exam, and on the laboratories, in practical part, we had programming. And first semester was very tough. We still like solving algorithms. I couldn't like get it. But next semester it was more about creating games. And I saw, it's so amazing. Like something happened on the screen, and I can move rectangles, and it just clicked. And since then I asked my teacher, okay, this course finished, and maybe we can go further. And I asked him, could he be my mentor? And he agreed, and I was like super excited. And we did computer vision, we did some machine learning, and then I joined the academic cycle. And I developed in web development, machine learning, and this is now I'm front-end developer, and I'm so excited. It's my passion, and I'm just so satisfied about that.
How did you come up with an idea to speak about the best practices in Angular?
I was maintaining a lot of legacy codes in Prowly. Also, I was reading a lot of code and features, and mastering all of this Angular stuff. And from the beginning, when I was learning Angular in courses, it was it's easy. It's very easy, basic stuff I was learning there, and it doesn't work mostly in like maintainability of my application. It's not that they learned the bad way to write Angular, but I would say it's quite complicated sometimes. And I was figuring out, okay, so what's the worst in this code, which is very bad to maintain, which is not scalable and very hard to test. And I saw a couple parts of the code and I realized, okay, so I have some ideas, but I wasn't like sure. And we had a lot of pair programming sessions and meetings with other developers in Prowly, and we were discussing about it. And a lot of ideas come up, and I was like so excited that I can share my experience. They shared their own thoughts. And after that, I discovered Josh Morony YouTube channel, and he provided the declarative approach in Angular and RxJS, and dots started to connect. And I was like, oh, it's like someone invented, like wheel for me. And all the knowledge I get, all the ways I can now with the declarative approach and this understanding of RxJS and Angular parts, I can combine this and maybe share the knowledge because it's not so obvious. It wasn't so obvious to me in the beginning. So yeah, this is how I come up with an idea.
Can you elaborate on the concept of Bulletproof RxJS and how it contributes to separations of concerns in Angular applications?
Okay, so Bulletproof RxJS, as it's like buzzword. It sounds like this, but I argue that writing well-made streams, writing well-made like RxJS operators is like key to provide a readable, maintainable application. When I consider the stream lifetime and the stream way, like from the first part, we have HTTP requests. I have like the source of data, some server, some provider, and it returns us like the observable, the HTTP requests, WebSocket. Now we have also signals, but let's stick to RxJS for now. And then we are going to, with the stream, we are going to store services, and we are providing the data from services store to our component container, like parent component. And then in HTML, we are consuming the data by calling async pipe. And this is like the way the stream is structured. And I would say it's like the best way you can write the stream and RxJS in Angular, because it's like native way. And this is for me bulletproof. When the stream is immutable, I have like clear way how to write the sort of operators in my definition of my stream, and I can handle every event from RxJS, and the algorithm how I read the stream definition declaration. It's like reading the instruction, and this is for me like bulletproof RxJS. I have no way to, break my leg.
What are some common pitfalls developers face when managing state with RxJS, and how can they be avoided?
First things first. I think it's not unsubscribing, and I argue that even if it's written in documentation that you can sometimes not unsubscribe for HTTP, I argue that you should always unsubscribe. Why? Because, for example, we have like a component which is calling HTTP request, and the request is like quite long. It takes long time. And then user fires navigation and we destroy the component, and then, request is still pending. And when your callback from subscription is combined with component logic, it can hurt. So unsubscription is for me crucial thing to do always. Or maybe always in programming is like bad word. You should be aware what can happen. Second is like nesting subscriptions, and it's so obvious to don't nest your subscription. But I saw a lot of examples that someone is subscribing, and then in subscription, there is another function, which is like, okay, check something. And when I go there and check something, oh, there is like another subscription. And this is not so obvious. So for me, building the stream, that way I have like instructions with operators and flattening operators. This is the way we should write the code with RxJS. And third one is combining many streams and making huge subscription callback. And then, we have like 5 selectors from store. I have like subscribed to params and like, I don't know, 10 or even 15. And then in my subscribe, I have like whole component logic stored. And it's like nightmare to maintain. So we should separate concern. We should make separation of concerns here and not make huge callbacks. Everything should be doing one thing.
You are now listening to the Angular Master podcast by ANG Poland. Listen, code, repeat, all you need to know to become a super Angular developer. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and drop us a cool comment. And don't miss out our second show, the JavaScript Master Podcast, where you find tons of fantastic JavaScript topics. In what scenarios is it advantageous to strategically violate the dry principle? And how does this impact code maintainability in Angular projects?
As I understand, don't repeat yourself principle is when I have code and there are 2 lines together, like they are doing the same thing. I should, like as my habits, as I was taught, to extract it to one function, one thing, or one part of code which does the thing. And then I can reuse it. This is like the way we should do it. But when I'm learning and like gathering experience, I understand the coupling more. And I see that coupling sometimes can also hurt. It can hurt as repetition can hurt. So I would say going to extremes in 2 directions is bad. We should be aware when we can leave duplicates, and we can where we can leave rewrite it to make code reusable and don't repeat. So I have like good examples of in my project that I had one functionality which should work for all users, and then I should create another one which is on top. And sometimes it's not that bad to just duplicate. And for me, from my perspective, I feel just safe sometimes that I know that the changing one very hard logical part it will not break the second part.
Can you explain the declarative patterns in Angular and the advantages over imperative code styling?
Let's maybe start with imperative coding, because it's our intuition to write the code imperative way. When I was like writing the code which checks if prime number is prime. If number is prime, it was like pure, imperativeness. It was like for, if, and variables and everything. And it was like natural. And in Angular, I was like, I wanted to go always with imperative code. I was like subscribing because I wanted my data and making huge callbacks and creating all these variables. And I saw it's maybe there is something more. And as I said, Josh Morony provided the declarativeness. I know the declarativeness from him. And when I think about declarativeness, I always give example of SQL language, because there you have just pure instructions. You don't have to think about implementation details. And this is the key to understand that you cannot hurt yourself writing the declarative code. And Angular does it great. So what is it? What's declarative code in Angular? We have like RxJS streams, and by subscribing and then opening the curly brackets and writing imperative code, this is not the way we mostly should use the streams. I argue that you should always think, it's necessary to create subscription. Maybe I can like somehow create stream with operators and then consume the data in HTML with async pipe. This is the way I think the declarative pattern in Angular shines. And over imperative code, of course, this is, there is always need to write imperative code, but writing it the least possible, I think, is the key.
What are some effective strategies for implementing declarative code in Angular, and how does it influence the application reactivity?
Okay, so as I said before, when we consider the stream and in our application, we use it to consume the data in different places. I want my stream to go through the application and consume the data in HTML. I don't want to create this algorithm in my component that changes the state in every callback of subscribe. Let's do it strict that I have one immutable stream, and I use pure functions with operators to declare the instructions in my stream. Then I can easily use it in my HTML, and it's just I like it very much that you have every instruction. You don't have to go through the whole file. You don't have to read the all, this, that variable equals something from your stream, and in like 10 lines down, it's the same, but with different stream. It's terrible to understand it. So that's why I am fan of always using async pipe. Is it possible?
Regarding component initialization, what are some advanced techniques beyond simple function extraction that Angular developers should consider?
Understanding the concepts in Angular is key here. What I mean by that, first thing, when I was learning Angular, okay, so I have like component to write, and I have to inject the data to component, and where can I do it? Of course, in ng-on-init, and I was subscribing, I was getting the data from navigation, I was getting the data from store, from everywhere I wanted. And sometimes there was like also logic. If some component should have navigation, maybe get the data and then do the navigation. And Angular has a lot of great stuff. We have guards, we have resolvers, we have store, we have services. We can split the logic, which is not necessarily put it in our component, and make it more readable. For example, I don't have to navigate in my component on initialization. Maybe I can just use this guard. It wasn't so obvious to me in the beginning, but understanding the concepts and having understanding with all tooling is I think, the key here.
In the context of clean code practices, how do pure functions and the return early pattern enhance code readability and maintainability in Angular?
Okay, so last time I recorded a short video about early return pattern, and it was said that maybe it's not pattern at all. And I said, I know it's not design pattern, but it's some pattern, right? So maybe to be clear, I consider it as a rule, as a way to just write the functions, write the code. And I get the idea about early return pattern from backend side. And when I have this callback from my, and I have experience with RxJS. And when I have this callback function with HT method, I'm making sure, okay, so now I have to have a token, I have to have all data required to make some logic. So I'm checking and then returning some value to frontend. I'm checking and then returning if statement is not met, if condition is not met. And with playing with frontend logic, it's nearly the same, because I see users are providing the data and we are not trusting users, right? We have to be sure, okay, so let's make it clear. The pattern is like this. Is it an email? No. Okay, so return. Is it something? No, return. And sometimes it's like also we are making code, making functions which other developers use. We call it utilities, and also developers can make mistakes. So we have to be sure. Okay, if the param is not okay, let's return. If something is not okay, return. And I don't have to combine everything in one if statement, because it's very bad to read. And that's why I think every return pattern is making your code much more readable. And last time, like the last example of this situation I use it was like in TypeScript type guard, where I have like very advanced type. I have to check all properties of this object, and I was just returning if it's not met. And also in pricing, where I was making pricing, it was like very advanced logic, and I wasn't like sure to make this huge statement, if statement. So maybe let's split it, and if something, calling a function, then return, and the function doesn't go further. And it's very predictable how function will handle the call.
Can you provide examples of how to apply pure functions and the return early pattern in Angular development?
As I said, Angular has very strong forms module. And when we using forms, we can easily use the early return pattern and returning and pausing the function when the data is not met with our requirements. Also, we have functional guards, and I saw that it's pure fun to use it with returning navigation, returning new route tree. It's also a great part of Angular, and how to inject somehow the return pattern.
So what are some common challenges Angular developers face when trying to adhere the best practices, and how can they overcome them?
Of course, in development, time is the most valuable and costly thing. I think there's always trade-offs, and writing a perfect code, it's like the carrot and donkey. Yeah? Yes, we are donkey and we are going to grab the carrot on the stick, and it never happen. Because why it's happening that way? Because writing the code this time we are aware of something. And when we already wrote it, there's like, I know so much more, and I would write it differently. And this is technical debt. And there is always technical debt, because writing something gives you experience and gives you like better understanding than you had before. So this is like trade-off, and you have to agree with that. And I would say improving little by little every time. Okay, so maybe you heard about declarativity today. So let's grab some example. Let's maybe use it when it's very basic example. You will play with it in your project. You don't have to rewrite your code base with declarative approach. It's not the way it should go. So this is the way I want to give you the advice, to just step little by little to go to the carrot, but we will not grab the carrot. It's impossible.
Can you share some success stories or case studies when implementing those Angular best practices significantly improve project outcomes?
I have experience with writing a pricing on our front-end side in Prowly. And I had task that the requirement that the pricing should be split in two, and I should like rewrite the whole thing. And okay, so I have the area that I can write the best practices I learned and see how it goes. And I'm so proud because the code I wrote this time, I'm getting there, I'm going back there, and I'm always understand what's happening there. And there is no bugs coming from pricing, and I'm so excited about that, because this is the key. And maintainable code is also very important for business, because we don't have to spend a lot of time changing something. And also with pricing, the logic with pricing is also very tough to understand. And I think it was great example how declarativity played the big game here. And everything seems like it's understandable. And, my friends with from my company are laughing, because they said I'm the person who is changing pricing, and they are laughing that they don't do it. And I said the code is beautiful because I'm the author, but I think I know with the code I don't have this situation that I'm coming back and I don't understand, because it's like quite popular thing that you are going back to this code like 1 month later and you are screaming, who does write it? And it appears that it's you. So I would say it's good example from me, at least, that I had this opportunity to use all the declarative code in one module and make it maintainable and bugless.
What kind of person is Tobiasz? How do you see yourself?
When I look in the mirror, I see curly hairs and I see smile. I'm always laughing, to be honest. I could say I'm a happy person, and I'm always hardworking person. I like challenges. Like I have nearly 3 years of experience, and I'm so glad about myself that I stepped the stage on NG Poland. And I delivered the talk. So it was one of the most amazing things I did in my life.
Tobiasz, thank you so much for your kind words. Hearing that performing at NG Poland was one of the most amazing experiences of your life really means a lot to me. So the next question is, how do you stay motivated during challenging projects?
I'm trying to prepare for some kind of sprint, some kind of run. I know I have to be rested. I know I have to be good. I know I have to have good sleep. and the base, which is like being good rest and a lot of water and one goal and delivering one thing and having the purity on one thing, and every day I'm starting the one thing I want to achieve. I know it's like in the process I will get less motivated, but building the discipline will affect achieving the goal.
What music do you listen to while working, if any?
I have two kinds of music I'm listening. Maybe it's two extremes. One is techno, and second is metal. It depends on what I'm working on. When I like refactoring pricing, I listen to techno. But maybe it's when there are bugs or like less like creative work, repetitive work. Maybe it's I would rather pick metal. So the name of bands are Metallica, Powerwolf, Megadeth. It's like some classics.
If you weren't working in tech, what other profession would you like to try?
Regarding AI trend, I think I think I'm baking good bread, and many people said it's good bread, and I have a passion about baking. It's lovely process because it's every step you are making for 3 days of preparing the bread will affect the final process, and it's like never-ending story. Every bread is different, so I will definitely be baker, but I am not going to wake up at 3, 4, no.
Do you have some hints for us regarding self-organization?
Prioritize your task, and book a time for tasks, and good sleep, a lot of water, a lot of sport. It will affect, the overall discipline and willing to accomplish the tasks.
Your favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby? I would say sport. I really love sport and doing sport because I'm resetting my head and meeting new people and pushing the limits. I would say it's sport. It's nearly always with in my life.
Favorite book?
Oh, it's impossible to pick one, but maybe last time I read One Thing. The book is called One Thing, and I'm thinking about this because it's truly you have to pick one thing and just do it until you achieve your goal.
Tobiasz, thank you so much for this amazing podcast. A lot of great information. It is pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was honor.
Bye.
Bye.